The United Nations Sustainable Goals for 2030 has 17 SDGs. Now, SDG 12 is about responsible consumption and production patterns. This is important to sustain livelihoods for the current and future generations. Now, I am on the UN.org website, and it says in 2020, an estimated 13.3% of the world's food was lost after harvesting and before reaching retail markets. An estimated 17% of total food available to consumers, that is 931 million metric tons, is wasted at household, food service, and retail levels. That's pretty shocking. Food that ends up in landfills generates 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Now, these are facts, and which is why we need to become very responsible about what we consume and what we waste. And for this, to discuss this more, we have Pragati Chaswal on our show. Hi, Pragati.
Hi,
welcome
Aparna.
on our show.
Thank you so much, Aparna.
She started her career as an advertising professional. And when she became a mother, motherhood threw new perspectives where she found herself changing her entire career and moving into starting an organization named SowGood Foundation. And SowGood Foundation is in the pursuit of integrating farming and composting at the school level, which is very interesting, getting young children to farm and to understand the importance of waste segregation. Pragati, I want to know why you started that. And when I say new perspectives from motherhood, what is it? It's clearly there was something at a very personal, deep personal level that made you start.
So, Aparna, actually, it did not start as, the thought that I wanted to start an organization. I was still working as an advertising consultant. And when my son Neil was growing up, I started noticing a few things which I later realized were probably there within me, but I never consciously noticed them. But when he was growing up, I could see how picky he was becoming with age. Like if there was a tomato in his dal, he would particularly pick that out and say, nahi khaunga. But at the same time, if he's eating a pizza which is full of tomato sauce, he won't mind that. Same was the case with eating spinach, etc. I think every mother would relate to that. Sabzi khana becomes like a problem. So that's when I realized that, what if Neil and I do a small experiment on our terrace that we start growing simple stuff at home. So with that experiment, on one Sunday morning, we just picked up soil and compost from wherever and took like a 2-liter bottle, some broken mugs, etc., filled it with soil and compost, put some seeds, and magically every seed started sprouting and everything grew. And within a month, everything that we had sown had sprouted. So what that helped in doing is that both of us started going to the terrace every morning to see what is happening. And once the vegetable was big enough, Neil took the initiative to harvest it. And then he said, chalo, let's make something together. So that simple experiment led me to consciously think of what are we consuming and more importantly, what are we wasting? That's when I started seeing that there were times when unconsciously we were wasting things. We were throwing away food. And then I started reading a lot more. I started reading about growing food. And I started reading about how can I use the green waste into composting. So these two simple things started happening. And all this while, my family was involved with this. And we started also noticing that, our plastic consumption. Is there something that we are using and we don't need to? So this happened for about a year. And I wanted to study farming more. So I enrolled myself into a course at IGNOU, which teaches organic farming. And over a period of time, I also became a guest consultant there. And I was teaching home gardening to the people who were coming there. And then some people asked me that, what you are doing with Neil, can you also work with our children and, bring this to their notice also. That's how this entire concept started. And with that small group of children, I noticed the changes that were happening. That pleasure of seeing children smile whenever they would see, seed sprouting or harvesting something.
Yes.
Telling others to, not pluck a flower from the park, or those changes which seem simple, but they're actually very deep rooted. And that's when I thought that, this is what I want to do. In fact, when I started the program, my curriculum was not in place. But I thought while working, everything will fall in place.
Pragati, when you talk about that, I just jumped into this and I said, I'll figure my program as I go along and the curriculum as I go along. So what does your program and curriculum look like right now?
When I said yes to myself to start the program, to leave my advertising career behind and start something which was absolutely new. I mean, who had heard of teaching farming to children? I
And
mean,
that too
it
in
does
Delhi.
not exist, no? That concept does not exist. And then the question was also, who will send their kids to learn farming? It's not football or dance.
True.
But at the same time, I could feel that, this is something that is essential for children. I also did a small survey with a handful of parents, and these parents were all parents of my son's friends. And we realized that every parent feels that there is a need, but since the concept does not exist, the consciousness was not there. And when we started talking about it, and when those parents started seeing their children consciously asking for those vegetables which are seasonal, is when I started seeing the impact. And slowly I was documenting everything that I was noticing in children, and that practical experience made me make that curriculum. And with the confidence that I got from the curriculum, I started working with schools. And that also happened organically when I was talking to somebody who works with the government schools, and I shared the program with them.
Sure.
And they said that, this is the program that every child needs. And can I connect you to a principal? And would you like to implement the program in that school? That's how the first school came in. I worked with girls of grade 6, and that was also very interesting. Inside the school, there was no space to make a farm. But the principal said that, right next to the school, there is a dumping ground. Let's convert the dumping ground into the farm space.
My goodness.
So the teachers and the children together
Cleared it.
we all cleared that up, and we started growing vegetables there.
So
That's how the first school started.
Where has your organization moved from the time it started to now? There must have been some change. What's the
Absolutely.
curve been?
Lot of changes, Aparna. In the sense, when I started SowGood, I did not know the difference between setting up an NGO or a proprietorship, etc., to how to approach schools, etc., and what all does an organization require. From there to now, an 18-member team, a curriculum for grade 3, 4, and 5, a 3-year curriculum, then a curriculum for 6, 7, and 8, and a third curriculum which is for grades 9 to 12.
Wow.
So there is a full structure that has been put in place. We have a training curriculum also for the new team that joins in. We are also working with teachers in terms of training them on how can they implement the SowGood program in their school.
Right.
So in the last 5 years, I can say the progress that started happening organically has taken a structure now, and we can see the impact now in children, because some of our children are in their 5th year with us.
Wow.
So the curriculum is actually based on 3 principles, which we call Vichar, Achar, and Prachar. The first year principle is Vichar, in which we just present a thought to the children. Then comes their behavior. And then the prachar stage where every child becomes
So
an
campaigner.
influencer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Becomes a champion for
A
the
champion,
cause.
yes.
That's wonderful. So how, when you say impact, how do you measure impact? What are the various ways in which children are impacted?
One is the green waste children start bringing from home. We measure that.
Okay.
In every school, there is a composting unit, and children start bringing green waste from home. And every time we put the green waste inside the compost unit, we measure it.
Right.
Second is each school that we work with becomes zero plastic and no foil space. Then in the second year intervention, there are targets like when we will not use a plastic straw. How many children have started carrying their own straw to wherever they are going? Then there are some questionnaires that we have, which we give to a child at the beginning of the year. We ask them those questions, we write them down, and the same questions are repeated year after year to see their understanding. These are some of the impact measurement criteria.
Nice. I also remember you once mentioned that children are now attending school because of this.
Yes.
So that's another measure.
That's a very big criteria, especially for government schools. So in government school, one of the biggest challenges is attendance. Nobody's paying for the fees. The government is sponsoring it. But still, there are times that only 40% of children attend the school. So when children start attending SowGood classes, they want to come back to the school because they know there is a space which belongs to them and they have to take care of the space. And we have noticed that in all our schools, attendance from 30 to 40% has become 85 to 90%.
My goodness.
Yeah, so that has
doubled
been
or more than doubled.
Actually, more than double. And now teachers have started using it as bait. If, for example, SowGood class happens on a Wednesday, and the child is only coming on Wednesdays because there is SowGood class, then the teachers start telling them that, look, if you are only coming on Wednesday, no SowGood class for you. So then the child starts coming every day.
So amazing.
Yeah, that has been very beautiful actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but hats off to the Delhi government to take you guys on and to be progressive in thinking that this would be wonderful for the children.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Clearly, it's a good relationship with the government.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say that, there's all sorts of stuff flying around saying, the government is clamping down on this, that, of course, on foreign funding, all of that is there, but compliances have become stricter. What is your opinion on this? As a social entrepreneur running a relatively smaller organization, how are you impacted by it? And what's the good and bad of it, in your opinion?
So in our case, Aparna, government has actually played a very important role. They have always helped us with our program. They have connected us to the schools where they feel that the program should be running. So far, it has been a beautiful partnership. As far as the other criteria go, I think it's important to have that system in place because there is a lot of paperwork, there is a lot of steps that one has to follow, and there are a lot of organizations that apply for, permissions. And government, especially when you are going to a school, there is a level of commitment that an organization has to bring.
Right.
If the organization is not bringing that commitment or responsibility, public will not come and question me, they will question the government.
That's true.
So government has to be very sure of who are they giving permission to. To be very frank, in our case, everything that we have applied for has been extremely quick. A CSR 1 certificate took a day to come. Yes.
Wow.
So there have been these instances also. I am not sure about FCRA, etc. As of now, we are in the process of applying for it. But what I've heard of is that they are very, very thorough in their processes.
If there was one thing that you would like to change in the social sector landscape in India, which would make it easier to have bigger impact?
One thing that comes to my mind for social organizations is funds because we are not making profit or we are not selling anything. We are working towards a social cause. Funds become an essential part to scaling. Now, how to get that funds is always a challenge. So that's one thing that I always feel that, whether I should put my focus towards the program or funds, both, how to balance that. We know that there is this norm that every corporate has to give, I think 1% or
2%.
2% towards CSR. But who are those corporates? How do I approach them? Those are some of the challenges that we always, is there a directory?
Interesting.
Yeah, is there a directory that these are the 20 CSRs that are interested or inclined towards supporting an environment organization or education organization, and who are the concerned people? Or are there any forums, conferences, etc., happening where people like us, all social entrepreneurs of certain fields, can go and participate in?
Wonderful. So, Pragati, tell me, what's your vision for SowGood in the next going forward?
So, Aparna, what I really want to do is create an open source curriculum which is self-explanatory, where teachers, parents, whoever is working with children should be able to use that program and start working with children. There will be training modules for teachers which we can go and conduct, but the idea is whoever is working with children should have access to this open source program so that it becomes easier for that person to work with children with the objective of connecting the child to nature, be it, growing microgreens, going out, identifying trees, but creating that pool of resources is what we want to do, and we are working towards that.
That's pretty amazing.
We really feel that every child should grow up loving nature, should grow up feeling that, this is part of life and not something that somebody specially has to take them out to make them feel something. So these days, I see parents taking a child to a park or to an activity club, and that activity club is all about let's go hug a tree, let's go climb a tree, and you pay fees for that. I mean, this is funny. Nature should be just as natural to you as anything else. You should not enroll for a tree hugging club. Therefore, what we are working on is a program, an open source thing which just tells a parents that these are simple things that you should do in your daily life so that the child can also be integrated into it. And same for teachers, that if you create a farm or a butterfly garden in your school, this is what a child can learn from this. And these are the different aspects of your school curriculum, maths, sciences, Hindi, English, that can be seamlessly integrated if you have a farm in the school. So if you have a farm in the school, the child is not only learning to grow food, they are respecting food because they can see the amount of patience, love that goes into growing each and everything. They are not just reading about plant life cycle through a book, they are actually experiencing it. They actually see that once you put the seed, how it sprouts and how it becomes big. And more importantly, they are learning to be patient. It's not any video game that you sow a seed today and before you wake up, you will get a message that, your harvest is ready. It doesn't work like that. So you have to be patient and you have to nurture.
What tips would you give to people who would want to make this difference in their lives but not quite sure where to begin and how to begin and don't want to dirty their hands with
Absolutely.
कि अच्छा मैं भी पौधे उगाऊंगी.
Yeah.
What can they do?
Aparna, there are two parts to it. One is you growing your own food. Second is looking at your waste that you are generating. For growing food, I would say even if they are growing any plant, beginning with that is also brilliant. As long as you can just go water your plant every day, that's good enough. That's a very good start. Because once you start with that, the addiction automatically happens. And then simple things like your banana peels, your coffee grounds, eggshells. Just don't put them in the dustbin. Use them to cover your soil with it. Just these three things. Do it.
Just put them like that?
Just take the banana peel, put it in any planter. That's it. And once you start feeling that you're giving something to the soil, is when you would want to take the next level or the next step and say that, okay, now let me start composting. So just do these three simple things, or just religiously start watering your plants.
That
Adopt
in
one
itself,
plant in your house
one plant.
Yeah, and water it. Yeah.
By the way, I've killed 2 plants by singing to them.
That's okay. You sang to
Yes,
them.
I played the guitar for them. Poor things, they
Wow.
died.
उनकी गलती नहीं है.
Bad guitaring.
But the other thing that I tell everybody is, most of the plants die of overwatering.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So singing से शायद नहीं मरेंगे.
शायद overwatering किया होगा. This was in college, in hostel. So
Yeah.
clearly didn't know what to do at that time.
Yeah.
So anyways. Pragati, it's really been nice talking to you.
Thanks, Aparna.
And I find it pretty phenomenal that little children are able to learn how to grow their own food. Responsible consumption
Absolutely.
is really the way to go. It will reduce carbon footprint, and eating local food that you produce, it's actually not something that, it's a far-fetched dream. It's something that you can actually do just on your own terrace. So responsible consumption is the only way we can actually bring down the waste that we have in agriculture, the waste that we have in what we eat, and actually learn that whatever we grow is grown with so much hard work and dedication that you yourself will not want to waste it. So on that note, something to think about. I will catch you soon. Namaste.